Hello and welcome to the Audio Apprentice, and hello to all you audio apprentices out there. Today we're going to be exploring reverbs and their parameters. For many of us, reverb's probably the hardest effect to master. In the early days, all the reverbs were achieved by putting a speaker in a room and then miking up the room to get natural ambience. You may have been lucky and had the choice of having 2 or maybe 3 actual rooms to choose from, or they may have used even the bathroom, putting a mic in there and feeding the signal back through a speaker. If you were recording in a large hall, you didn't have a choice. You had the hall and that was it. Today we've got plugins that can imitate a vast variety of rooms and chambers. We also have plate reverbs and convolution reverbs. Each one will have their own set of parameters. You can read up on the different types of reverb in the Audio Apprentice resource. For many, reverb is all about making a sound seem big or small, or it puts an instrument in a defined space like a hall, small room or stadium. If you use the pre-fader function in the auxiliary output, you can also make a sound seem like it's really far in distance. To set up a pre-fader function, you will need an auxiliary send and have its outputs routed through a bus. You'll also need to have the pre-fader button inserted, and what that does is it takes the signal from before the fader and still feeds it in to the reverb here on your auxiliary track, and we'll show you how that operates later on. Sometimes a reverb that we choose will have some of the characteristics that we're after, but it just doesn't quite fit. To use reverb effectively, we need to understand what reverb is and what are the general properties of reverb. Reverbs and delay are similar. Delays are a series of single repeats that you can make repeat once or many times. Reverbs are many echoes that become enmeshed and interact with each other. There will be phase cancellations and combinations that'll give you a sense of space. Reverb and delay can only happen when there are many surfaces that sound can bounce off and return to your ears. This doesn't happen in an open field because there are no walls to bounce off. It also doesn't happen in extremely large rooms, where the signal that bounces off the walls loses energy before it gets to your ears. The time delays and phase shifts of the returning sound help our brains determine where the sound comes from and what size the room is. To reproduce this, reverb plugins will have parameters like pre-delay, reverb time, early reflections, diffusion, decay, and size, etc. All these parameters imitate real-life characteristics of reverb. To choose the correct reverb, you need to imagine the space that you want the instrument to be in. If you have an operatic vocal, you're going to be putting it in a concert hall. You'll have the direct voice coming at you from the stage, and then you'll have the reverb of the hall. For a loud punk, rock or metal band, the direct signal will drown out the reverb from the room, and the main sound you will hear will be of the instruments. Of course, that depends on how loud it is. In a mix, it's always good to add a short reverb auxiliary and a long reverb auxiliary. They don't have to be the ones that you're going to settle on, just have them there to give you a guide as to which ones you're going to be using. Let's explore the reverb parameters. I'm using a vocal and I've set up the reverb on many auxiliary tracks. Each one has a particular parameter that I'll be looking at. I'm going out bus 1 and 2 of the send into bus 1 and 2 of the auxiliary track, which has the reverb on it, as I've shown you before. I've chosen a room and have a reverb time of 1.2 seconds. For general modern music, reverb times are between 0.9 of a second and 1.2 seconds. So let's have a look at the parameters in depth. Pre-delay offsets when the reverb comes in. The reverb time is how long the reverb lasts, and it isn't how big the room is. The size of the room you may even call the volume of a room. Diffusion absorbs top end and can be used to transform a room from a bright tiled room to one with wood panels for walls. Decay is like a gate and determines how quickly the reverb actually goes to zero. Early reflections can be described as the first reflections from the closest wall, but the volume and reverb time remain constant. They can be used to transform a square room into a long, thin room with the same volume as the original square room. So, let's start with pre-delay. Now, I'll drop the earlier reflections down to 0 so we can hear the full effect, and I'll put the earlier reflections back in a bit later. Now, imagine you're in a room where all the walls are equidistant and they can be moved. As I move the pre-delay further back, it will give you a sense of having a bigger space. I've started the pre-delay at 0 and I've automated the pre-delay to move at 50 milliseconds at a time. Listen carefully.
Time heals everything, even though you don't know when. It's much too far away to see. It seems all the doors are closed and only the skies are open. Well, time heals everything, my friend. Time heals everything, even though you don't know when. It's much too far away to see. It seems all the doors are closed and only the skies are open. Well, time heals everything, my friend.
You would have heard that the reverb had separation from the vocal as the pre-delay increased. They'll be like moving the walls out, making the rooms bigger. So what it also did was to make the vocal more distinct. With the pre-delay at 0, we hear both the reverb and the vocal on top of each other, making the vocal a little further away because the sound hits our ears at the same time and the delay time gives us the room size. As the pre-delay increased, we heard the vocal first and then the room size. The reverb time remained constant. So we got a bigger room without using the reverb time to make it bigger and achieve more clarity in the vocal. We also have to be careful that the delayed reverb doesn't interfere with the next line. Our next parameter is time. Here, I've automated the length of time of the reverb by about half a second each time, starting at 0. I've left the pre-delay at 0 so you can have a sense of just the reverb time by itself.
Time heals everything, even though you don't know when. It's much too far away to see. It seems all the doors are closed and only the skies are open. Well, time heals everything, my friend. Time heals everything, even though you don't know when. It's much too far away to see. It seems all the doors are closed and only the skies are open. Well, time heals everything, my friend.
As we heard, the longer the time, the more interference there will be with the following line. Moving on, we come to the size of the room. Again, I've automated this and I'm going from the smallest size to the largest size so the comparison can be easily made. I'll also run it through the pre-fader function and turn the volume down so we can hear just the reverb.
Time heals everything, even though you don't know when. It's much too far away to see. It seems all the doors are closed and only the skies are open. Well, time heals everything, my friend. Time heals everything, even though you don't know when. It's much too far away to see. It seems all the doors are closed and only the skies are open. Well, time heals everything, my friend.
We'll move on to diffusion. As I've explained before, the diffusion parameter just takes the shine off the reverb. I'll just run this through with the pre-fader again and the volume turned down on the original track so you can hear the difference in tone.
Time heals everything, even though you don't know when. It's much too far away to see. It seems all the doors are closed and only the skies are open. But time heals everything, Time heals everything, even though you don't know when. It's much too far away to see. It seems all the doors are closed and only the skies are open. Well, time heals everything, my friend.
Now, our next parameter is decay. You may describe this as a gate. Again, it's just the rate at which the reverb will decay to nothing. I'll run this through normally at first, and then I'll run it through just with the pre-fader on.
Time heals everything, even though you don't know when. It's much too far away to see. It seems all the doors are closed and only the skies are open. Well, time heals everything, my friend. Time heals everything, even though you don't know when. It's much too far away to see.
The next parameter is early reflections. So just imagine that the wall's closer to you and the reverb that hits you is a little bit brighter. Again, I'll run this through just with the pre-fader, so you're just hearing the reverb and the early reflections.
Time heals everything, even though you don't know when. It's much too far away to see. It seems all the doors are closed and only the skies are open. Well, time heals everything, my friend.
So now we've come to the point where I'm going to apply all the parameters to this track. For this track, I don't want something that's too big or something that's going to interfere with the vocal. So I've adjusted it a little bit. I've got a bit of pre-delay. I've got a reverb time of just under 0.9 seconds. The size is just a little bit above halfway. And I've got a little bit of diffusion, so it's not too bright, and some decay, so it doesn't interfere with the next line. I have a little bit of early reflection, and the wet and dry is at 100% wet. If you're using the plugin on the track itself, you'd use the wet and dry to balance out the dry signal, or the original signal, with the amount of reverb that you need. So let's have a listen to that. I'll also use a pre-fader, so you can hear the reverb itself.
Time heals everything, even though you don't know when. It's much too far away to see. It seems all the doors are closed and only the skies are open. Well, time heals everything, my friend. Time heals everything, even though you don't know when. It's much too far away to see. It seems all the doors are closed and only the skies are open. Well, time heals everything, my friend.
So now we have two more parameters, and I'll run through them quickly. Many reverbs mightn't have it, but generally all of them do have something similar. They are dampening and EQ. You could call dampening suppression of frequencies, more like a quasi-compressor. But I'll just run this track through and I'll adjust the dampening as I go through. I'll have it on the pre-fader position so you can hear the effect.
Time heals everything, even though you don't know when. It's much too far away to see. It seems all the doors are closed and only the skies are open. Well, time heals everything, my friend.
The final parameter is EQ. It's just a 2-band EQ, and it saves you from putting an EQ after the reverb. You'll use this if you think the reverb is too bright or too woolly or it needs more bottom end.
Time heals everything, even though you don't know when. It's much too far away to see. It seems all the doors are closed
So there we have all the general parameters of a Reverb plugin. Some have more, some have less. I hope you enjoyed this video and that you'll be able to use this information on your next mix, and bye for now.